Hello, boys and girls, and welcome to another episode of Can't Wait Wednesdays here on the KB Radio Network. This is the show where we preview upcoming film releases of the upcoming week. How are we doing out there, everybody? We have arrived at the final week of April 2023, and this year is chugging along. We have made it through the first 4 months of this year, and man, the first 4 months of 2023 is from a movie lover, TV lover standpoint, have been jam packed. I know our lives are jam packed every day. That goes without saying. But as far as content, it has been just a plethora of stuff that's available for us to watch, and even some stuff that we probably haven't gotten around to watching. It's hard to catch up with so much that's coming out week to week. I can remember back in, I'm sounding like an old man now. Oh, back in my day, but I mean, you remember when maybe 2 weekends out of the month movies will come out. Things were spaced out a little differently. And especially on television, we didn't have streaming services and stuff back in the 80s and all that, 90s even. It was just the 20 channels that you may have had. I don't know. I don't even remember how many. It's been so long, I forgot how many channels we actually had, because now we have over maybe 1,000 channels that we can watch television on. But we didn't have all this. So now we fast forward to 2023 present time, and you're getting just content on top of content every week. And this week is no different. We have a lot coming out this week. And just like the previous weeks and months that have preceded us, there's something for everybody this week. We have a lot. And so let's not dilly dally. Let's jump right into our can't waits this week, films and television shows that are premiering this week. Let's start with television. Our first can't wait this week comes from the land of Prime Video. We have a new TV series that is premiering this Friday, April the 28th, and it is Citadel. And Citadel is a science fiction action thriller, kind of a spy thriller that is being brought to you by the two gentlemen, two brothers who gave us Avengers Endgame and Infinity War, along with the Captain America films, the Russo brothers. And this show stars Richard Madden and, let's see if I can get her name right, Prajenta Choppa Jonas. If I pray that I got it right. It sounds like I got it right. But she's married to Nick Jonas. So Google her. Anywho's she stars along with Richard Madden. And this show is described as an action-packed spy series with a compelling emotional center and an expansive and groundbreaking global event comprising a mothership series and several local language satellite series. It includes spin-offs set in the Italian Alps, India, Spain, and Mexico. I'm excited for this. I'm a huge James Bond fan, so globe-trotting adventures like this reminds me of James Bond, and you know shows like that or movies like that, Mission Impossible films and so on and so forth. I love globe-trotting epics. Hey, even Indiana Jones, if you will. So this looks interesting. Going by the trailer, uh, our two lead actors are agents in the Citadel who had their memories wiped, and now they're back in action, and the typical amnesia super killer storyline. But this looks good. It's already been picked up for a second season, so that's encouraging. So we'll get to check out the first season starting this Friday, April the 28th on Prime Video. Our next can't wait is an HBO series. And when you hear HBO series, you know that you getting some quality television here. HBO does not let me down. I don't know about you, but it don't let me down when it comes to their TV shows. And anytime they announce a television series, I'm all in. I'm willing to check it out. Even if the subject matter is not my cup of tea, I'll check it out just to see if it's good or not. And more often than not, it is good. And this one is something that I'm excited about because I'm a history buff. I'm into the political dramas, and this is a series that is based around the Watergate scandal back in the, I don't know when it was, 60s. I wasn't born yet, but anywho's, White House Plumbers is a mini series that is premiering on HBO May the 1st, this Monday, and it stars Woody Harrelson, Justin Theroux, Donald Gleason, and Laurie Heading. And I am so excited for this, man. The premise is Watergate masterminds and President Richard Nixon's political advisors, E. Howard Hunt and G. Gordon Liddy, part of the White House plumbers charged with plugging press leaks by any means necessary, accidentally overturned the presidency they were trying to protect. And if you are a history buff, or if you lived throughout that time, you know all you know most of the story of the Watergate scandal and Richard Nixon and all this here. He ended up resigning, the only president to ever resign from office. And this is the backstory as to all the ins and outs that took place that led to Richard Nixon resigning the presidency. So I am all in on this. Of course, you know, Woody Harrelson, man. Justin Theroux, all of these actors involved. I am all in for it. I love them. Can't wait to see this show. White House Plumbers drops on HBO. I'm pretty sure it'll be on HBO Max as well. May the 1st. So, sticking with HBO and HBO Max, we have another show, another mini series, if you will. And this show is another true story. And I didn't know anything about this story. Um, I was about to research it, but I said, no, I'll watch the show and then I'll go back and get the whole true Hollywood story, if you will. And this is Love and Death, and this stars Elizabeth Olsen. Yes, the Scarlet Witch herself. She is stepping away from Marvel to dive into this series based on a true story. The premise of this show is um housewife Candy Montgomery, played by Elizabeth Olsen, who was accused of the brutal axe murder of her friend Betty Gore in 1980. I'm all in on this. I love Elizabeth Olsen. Aside from, you know, the MCU and her turn as the Scarlet Witch, which she did an excellent job in, she is an exceptional actress. I feel that we, and I say we, but there's only a few people who associate a certain actor with one role, you know, and just run with it. Now, granted, she's been playing Scarlet Witch for the better part of what, 10, 12 years, maybe, but, and that's probably all you ever seen her in, but I've seen her in other projects and she's been awesome. You know, she is a real good actress. So to see her in something else, something new, something different is exciting. A crime drama based on a true story. I'm all in on this. Starring with Elizabeth Olsen in this show is Jesse Plemons, Kristen Ritter, and so many more. So I'm all in. Can't wait to see it. Love and Death premieres on HBO Max tomorrow, Thursday, April the 27th. I can't wait for this. This looks exciting. I failed to mention that this show was written by uh David E. Kelly, who has written some awesome television shows throughout the what 90s and early 2000s. Doogie Howser, Chicago Hope, The Practice, Boston Legal, Ally McBeal, Boston Public, uh, Big Little Lies. Most recently is a show on right now, Big Sky, that he also produced and co-wrote, and he's also married to uh, uh, Michelle Pfeiffer, which makes him the luckiest man on God's green earth. And so him being involved in this show is a plus. So yes, Love and Death drops on HBO Max this Thursday, April the 27th. Our last TV show this week is I guess you could say, a remake of a film that came out in 1987. And I think you could call that film the married man's horror film. It's- well, I don't know. Well, unfaithful married man's horror film, and it is Fatal Attraction. And I remember watching this when I was younger. Of course, I didn't have a wife in 1987, but as I got older and I've seen it recently, I'm like, man, yeah, it's cheaper to keep her. From watching that movie. That is a horror film. I don't care what nobody say. It is scary. To get caught up in that situation. Glenn Close and Michael Douglas starred in that film, and it was just haunting, bro. Glenn Close, to this day, I'm scared to death of Glenn Close because of that movie. I don't know why. Well, I know why, because she was crazy in that film. So we fast forward to this year, and we have a show based on that TV show. Well, off that movie, should I say, Fatal Attraction, which drops on Paramount Plus this Sunday, April the 30th. And this go around, we have Joseph Jackson and Lizzie Kaplan starring in this show. And going by the trailers, yeah, it's just as frightening. And the premise, in case you've never seen Fatal Attraction, which is, I don't know, blasphemy, man. How you haven't seen Fatal Attraction? That is a awesome film. The premise is a passion affair takes a volatile and dangerous turn when a woman refuses to allow her married lover to put an end to their relationship. Yes, it is. It is that, man. It goes there in the movie. I can only imagine what a full length TV show is gonna do. So this looks like it's gonna be even more frightening because now we get the deep dive into these characters, into this situation with a full length show. So we shall see how it turns out. The movie is a classic, so uh please don't sully this this classic film with this show. I'm praying that it works. It looks good. The actors involved looked awesome. I like Joshua Jackson. Been watching him since back in the day. What was it, Dawson's Creek? He was on, and Lizzie Chaplin. I love her. I absolutely love her. Ever since, I think the first time I saw her was in Cloverfield, and I've been a fan ever since. So for her to take the Glenn Close role here, this is kind of a different role for her. I would, I'm so excited to see where this goes. Fatal Attraction drops on Paramount Plus this Sunday, April the 30th. So that's it for our television shows. Now we're moving on to our films. And we have one film that is dropping on a streaming service this week, and it is another version, yet another version of the Peter Pan story. This is Peter Pan and Wendy, and it drops this Friday on Disney Plus. Uh, I know that we have gotten a million and one versions of Peter Pan. I remember watching almost every version of Peter Pan in my life. I don't think there's a version of Peter Pan I have not watched. And so it's safe to say I'm kind of burnt out in a way, but for some strange reason, I'm excited for this film. And maybe it's just something about this material, about never growing up, the boy that never grows up, and that appeals to the kid and all of us. And so it just hooked me, no pun intended. It hooked me when I saw this trailer, and I was like, yep, I'm watching it. And just go around, and speaking of Hook, playing Captain Hook in Peter Pan and Wendy is Jude Law. And he was the most exciting thing about that trailer for me, because I was like, ooh, yeah, Jude Law looks awesome as Captain Hook. He really looks good as Captain Hook. And so I'm excited to see his turn. The premise of this movie, in case you have no idea what Peter Pan is and what the Peter Pan story is, let me be the first to say, welcome to Planet Earth. I'm glad that you're here. Make yourself at home. Here's what Peter Pan Here's the premise to the Peter Pan and Wendy film. Wendy Darling, a young girl afraid to leave her childhood home behind, meets Peter Pan, a boy who can fly and refuses to grow up. Alongside her brothers Michael and John and a tiny fairy, Tinkerbell, she travels with Peter to the magical world of Neverland. There, Wendy encounters an evil pirate captain, Captain Hook, and embarks on a thrilling and dangerous adventure that will change her life forever. Yes, there's nothing new there. It's the same premise from 1930, whenever the first Peter Pan came out. But it looks good. It just looks updated in the sense of special effects. Nothing else is updated. So let's dive in and see how this turns out. Peter Pan and Wendy flies into your homes this Friday, April the 28th on Disney Plus. Moving on to our theatrical releases, we have two films dropping in theaters this week, and I've never read this book, but I've heard of this book, and I've heard this book is interesting. But I never read it, and now I guess I don't have to, because the film version drops in theaters this Friday, April the 28th, and it is Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. It is based off of the best-selling book, and it is a coming-of-age period comedy drama written, co-produced, and directed by Kelly Craig, and is based off of the 1970s novel of the same name. The film stars Abby Ryder Fortson as the title character of Margaret Simon, and Rachel McAdams as her mother, Barbara. Uh, the premise of Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret is sixth grader Margaret Simon and her family moved to New York City, to the suburb of New Jersey. Since one of her parents is Christian while the other is Jewish, she goes on a quest to discover her religious identity. I, this is one of the things I wanted to read, coming up, because we all had questions. We all had, you know, uh, 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 doubts at one time of what we truly believe and how we believe, and who should we, how should we worship, if we should worship, and all these other questions. I mean, uh, it hits everybody at some point in their life. So this was one of the books that I always wanted to read during my time of, I guess, struggling with it. I'm not struggling with it no more, but it's an interesting concept, because in a situation like that, which way do you go? Of course, I didn't have that problem. Both of my parents were Christians, and so I didn't have that issue. But I could imagine being in a household where it's kind of split. You know, one's a Christian and one's Jewish. I know people who parents, one was a Christian, the other was atheist. So that I know that was some interesting Christmases in that in that house. And so yeah, man, I can see the struggle. And so this is a movie. Let's see how the movie version goes through. Is it going to be a beat for beat adaptation of the novel? I don't know. I never read the novel, but hopefully the movie holds the points of the novel. I know what happens in the novel, the cliff note version of it. I just never sat down and read it back to front. So let's see how this goes. Are You There, God? Is Me, Margaret drops in theaters this Friday, April the 28th. That leads us to our final can't wait of the weekend, and it is a goodie, people. This is a film. Uh, well, I say goodie. I haven't seen the film, even though I had an early screener a couple of weeks ago, but I missed it. I was a little tied up with something else, but no point crying over spilled milk. This is a film that I was excited for from the moment I heard about it because I'm a huge fan of this boxing legend, this boxing icon, George Foreman. And this is based off of his life. And George Foreman has a very, very interesting life, an interesting story. And I'm glad it's being told in this matter on the big screen with a film of this magnitude. Big George Foreman. And like I said, if you know George Foreman, of course his autobiography or his biographical film would be named Big George Foreman. And in case you don't know, I'm pretty sure you walk in your kitchen every day and you probably cook some steaks or some hamburgers or whatever on your George Foreman grill. And you probably sit back and think, oh, they made a movie about a man that made a grill. No, man. George Foreman was a boxer. He was the heavyweight champion of the world at one point. And this is the true story of his comeback. He had one of the greatest comebacks in sports history. The synopsis of Big George Foreman goes as such: overcoming a childhood marked by poverty to become one of the most promising young boxers in the world, George Foreman suffers a near death experience in the ring and vows never to fight again after deciding to become a Baptist minister and preacher. I always thought they were the same thing, but whatever. Years after, with bankruptcy looming over his struggling gym, he gets back in touch with his former trainer and becomes the oldest boxer in history to win the heavyweight championship. I remember, like it was yesterday, watching that fight. I believe it was Michael Moore who was the heavyweight champion of the world, and me and my dad was watching that fight. And for like 9 to 10 rounds, George Foreman was getting just mollywopped in the ring. He was showing his age, man. He was just a big lumbering feller. He was just there as a punching bag. And then he just unleashed two punches and knocked Michael Moore out in the ring. I remember my dad jumping up off the couch. He was out of excitement. You know what I'm saying? My dad never reacted to a boxing match like that before, but he was so excited. I believe my uncle was here too, or at least at their house, at my parents' house, watching that fight, and it was just the excitement from George Foreman winning that championship belt in that fight. It was amazing. I still remember it to this day. I still get goosebumps thinking about that fight, because it was truly a miracle, man. It was like the greatest story in sports. I don't think it has been topped ever. But anywho's the film stars Chris Davis as George Foreman, and he looks like George Foreman. I never heard of Chris Davis. I haven't seen him in it. I probably have and never paid attention, but he looks uncanny as George Foreman. And it also stars Forrest Whitaker as Doc, George Foreman's trainer. And this film is directed by George Tillman Jr., who is a gentleman. His career I have been following from the beginning. I really do enjoy all of his films, or at least the most of them, the vast majority of his films, dating back to 1997, I believe it was. Soul Food, he directed. Men of Honor, he directed. Barbershop films, he was a part of. Notorious, the film that was based on Biggie Small's life. Also, The Hate You Give. If you haven't seen The Hate You Give, very powerful film. That was the last film I recall him making. He probably made something prior to that or after that, but I can't recall. But that was a very powerful movie that he directed, and he's diving into this. Very capable hands. Love his work. Love how he directs a film. But we'll see how this goes. Big George Foreman will swing it out with the competition in theaters this Friday, April the 28th. So those are your can't waits this week. To recap, you have Citadel dropping on Prime Video this Friday, April the 28th. You have White House Plumbers on HBO, May the 1st. Love and Death on HBO Max, April the 27th. Fatal Attraction on Paramount Plus this Sunday, April the 30th. Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, in theaters this Friday, April the 28th. Also, Peter Pan and Wendy on Disney Plus this Friday, April the 28th, and Big George Foreman in theaters this Friday, April the 28th. Which one of these films or television shows are you excited for? There's a little something for everyone here this weekend. I would love to know which one you are going to peep out. Email the show, kbradiopodcast@gmail.com. You can also look me up on Twitter at KB Radio Network and on other social media platforms. Just look up the KB Radio Network. Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, if you are listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever it is you're currently listening to the show, don't forget about the 5 stars, the reviews, and sharing this show with all your friends, family, and loved ones. And don't forget, we're over on YouTube as well. Give us a subscribe, give us a like. Greatly appreciated, everybody. Thank you for joining me for this episode of Can't Wait Wednesdays. Glad that you stopped in, checked out the show. For those of you first time listeners, thank you for joining. I hope I said something that will have you come back and check out the content here on the KB Radio Network. And if you are returning to the show, thank you for your continued support. I want you all to know that I love you. Continue to love everybody. And until we speak again, you all be blessed.